I'm Mike.
I'm Sam. Let's get into it.
Trips right bunch, H settle, 51 scat, H weave rail wide line, can 3-jet church.
Here we go. Be alert on the weave here, right? One mid trip strike bunch, H settle, 51 scat, H weave rail wide line, can 3-jet church. Blue 20, blue 20, easy. Can.
What's a can mean?
He just canned it right there. Those are two plays I just called. I cannot, this helmet doesn't fit.
Shocking that a helmet doesn't fit you. They didn't have a double XL helmet to fit that forehead.
All right.
Welcome to episode 63 of the Mike and Santa Sports Show. We're back with another episode. We're going to start off like we did last week with our daily news and our weekly quarterback, and then our week 3 NFL pick'em. So, daily news. We got some good NFL action. We'll start off with that. Last week, the Sunday night game was great with the Chiefs and Ravens. The 4 o'clock games were fun too with the Titans and Seahawks. Cardinals and Vikings came down to the wire, and then 1 o'clock games were pretty solid. The Colts broke my heart again. You know, Carson Wentz apparently made of glass, shattering both his ankles. So, what are some of your takeaways from week 2 of the NFL?
Yeah, Carson Wentz spraining both his ankles on the same play is kind of hilarious, not going to lie. That's kind of what happens when you try to hold yourself up with all of the weight of Aaron Donald and force of him coming at you. That makes sense. I guess transitioning into that point, talking about some of the quarterback injuries. I know Andy Dalton got hurt. Tua Tagovailoa got hurt. When Justin Fields came in, he looked really shaky. I'm not going to lie. They better devise a game plan to utilize his legs and protect him, because I don't think he's ready to run the Andy Dalton traditional pass set offense quite yet. I think he has the potential to get exposed in that. Looking at Tua, man, I think Tua is a very mentally tough guy, but physically, I don't think he's very tough. Like, he just doesn't have that physical frame to warrant being hit over and over. Now, I'm not going to criticize Tua on the play he got hurt. That was kind of a free rusher and came straight at him. But when it comes to Tua, this Dolphins team is in trouble, and I know they're trying to upgrade at the quarterback position regardless of Tua being healthy or hurt.
Yeah, I mean, with the Dolphins, I think it's time to move on from Tua, but I think that the problem is that this year's draft class, like, they're really in no shape to get a quarterback going after this year, because there's no one like really like special. I mean, I guess like Spencer Rattler, Sam Howell, but I don't trust any of the guys. Everybody says that Spencer Rattler's this great NFL prospect, but like every time I watch him play, he's not special at all. Like, I don't really see it. So sad for Dolphins fans. They might be in a season where Jacoby plays this whole year and then one more year to it. But I think it might be time to write to a story in the NFL already.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't quite see it with him being a starter. I think a game we'll talk about a little bit more in depth in a different topic discussion today is going to be the Patriots Jets. Just to touch on that game just a little bit. It was a very ugly game. My main takeaway from the Patriots Jets is a takeaway from the Patriots, actually. I was really disappointed with them. I think when Zach Wilson threw his 4th interception, the score is 10-0. And I think it's an absolute joke to be only up 10-0 to a team where you have 4 interceptions against the opposing quarterback. This Patriots offense and just this Patriots team in general isn't as good as I anticipated them being. No dynamic playmakers on the offensive end. Even with the additions, I just don't see anybody getting open on a consistent basis. And man, looking how the Bills responded to their bad week 1 game and kind of came out and smacked the Dolphins around, I think the Bills are definitely going to win that division running away.
Yeah, I would say, you know, very confidently that the Bills win that division. But with the Patriots game, it's just I think it's rather stupid that Belichick's kind of stuck in his own ways a little bit. You know how, you know, if a running back makes a stupid play, he gets put in the doghouse. Like, Damian Harris is one of their best playmakers on the offensive side of the ball, and since he fumbled week 1, they kind of just didn't really utilize him at all in week 2, and until that run where he broke probably like 8 tackles. So I don't get why Belichick's hurting his own team by using one of their best, strongest guys on offense, you know, very limitedly after he made a mistake.
Yeah, and it's not like they have the depth not only at the running back position, but again, at all positions to kind of replace a guy like that. I think he's their best offensive player. I know James White stepped up early on in that game, had a pretty good game, but I think Harris is definitely the best offensive player on that team. Running into some of the other games, the Sunday night game was a great game. I knew the Chiefs kind of bend but don't break defense and offense that is really reliant on three players. When you play competent teams, I think they're going to be able to figure that out. And I know this score and the stats from the Chiefs are, it was the defense that let them down. But late in this game, they had a couple opportunities offensively to capitalize, and they didn't. It's just when you lock up Tyreek Hill, you kind of play that soft zone, leave everything in front of you. I think Andy Reid's kind of just refusal to have more of a dink and dunk offense sometimes when they are schemed against has really cost them. It's what cost them in the Super Bowl last year, in my opinion. And I think it cost them late in this Chiefs-Ravens Monday or Sunday night game.
Yeah, I think it's just like Mahomes' inability sometimes to, I feel like he always focuses on Tyreek and Kelsey. So, I mean, he tried to get other wide receivers involved, but like when you have such a dynamic playmaker, like eliminated, like you said, with Tyreek Hill, it makes their offense a little one dimensional. Like that's kind of like going to the Browns, talking about the Browns. It's kind of like Baker's fault when Odell's on the field. He's always constantly trying to push it to Odell to, satisfy him. So I guess that's kind of like with Mahomes. He did get, Robinson and Harmon involved a little bit, but like they still weren't able to win the game just because their massive playmaker was taken out of the game. Like if that happens in if they face a team in the playoffs that's able to do that as well, like they're going to get bounced out early.
Yeah, before transitioning into college football, I just wanted to add my Michael Scalzo overanalyzing every movement of every player take. I'm strongly convinced that Patrick Mahomes still has an injured toe. I think that turf toe from last season is still there. Just watching him run around the pocket, watching his mechanics, watching him walk off the field in a manner which he's trying to kind of de-stress his lower body by the way he walks, if that makes any sense whatsoever. I still think Patrick Mahomes is just a notch below what his movement was in 2018 and in 2019 at the beginning of that season. Turf toe is one of those weird injuries that it can either go away in 3 months or it can nag for the rest of a player's career. Deion Sanders is a great example of that. His career was kind of derailed by turf toe. So Patrick Mahomes, here's my early season prediction. I think something at the end of the season is going to come out that toe is still not healed. And I anticipate something in his lower body getting injured yet again this season.
And one more NFL topic. I just got to ask you, do you think Tyrod Taylor is cursed? Because I feel like he always gets an opportunity to play, and he just something always derails his playing time. Baker came in the Browns. Last year, he got a punctured lung for Herbert, and then this year, do you have, a hamstring injury, and then Davis Mills goes in? I love Tyrod. He's a great guy. He just always gets some sort of obstacle put in his way.
Here's what I'll say about Tyrod Taylor, Mr. 10 for 11, 125 yards and a touchdown before getting out. I mean, he looked incredible. In my opinion, I know we're playing with what ifs here. I think the Texans win that football game if Tyrod Taylor plays the entire game. I don't think the Browns were playing well offensively or defensively in that game before Davis Mills came in. But with Tyrod Taylor, I think it is a combination of an unlucky man, not a cursed man, an unlucky man being a part of a bunch of cursed organizations. Like when you're a quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, who are very cursed, when you're a quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, who are very cursed, hell, even the Los Angeles Chargers, who have been cursed the last 15 years with their kind of late game debacles always. And then you go to Houston Texans, who are also cursed, have bad luck, shady ownership. Bad things are going to happen. Good things rarely happen to quarterbacks of these teams. So I think it's a combination of two things there.
Yeah, we're rooting for you, Tyrod. Get healthy soon. You were excited. He was excited to play. For the first time in his career, I would say he was exciting to watch against the Cleveland Browns this past weekend.
It's fair. It's fair.
So moving into college football for the daily news. I'll go on my little 5-minute rant about Ohio State, and then we can talk about some other games. But
can I ask you a question real quick before you get into your spiel? Then you can transition the question into your spiel.
yeah, go
All
ahead.
right, I'll shoot. On a scale of 1 to 10, how insane am I for thinking? So I watched every play of this game. I actually sat down on Sunday, watched every play of this game. How crazy am I for thinking that Davis Brin, the quarterback at Tulsa, is better than CJ Stroud? How crazy am I for thinking that?
Right. So he comes in. They're 0 for 2. I don't think he threw a touchdown in any of the previous games, and he goes out and throws for like 400 yards and just torching our defense. Stroud is putting up all these insane numbers, but like I have no faith in this guy. I have no faith. He's winning the freshman of the week every week, but I just have no faith in him. I think we're playing Akron. It's a night game. Like it's gonna be a shootout. So we'll see how he plays. But I think this is like the week that we decide as Ohio State. If I was Ryan Day, this would be the week that I decide like maybe I need to move to McCord or Miller or even Quinn Ewers, who was a 18-year-old kid that just came to Ohio State.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to make this quarterback transition till it's too late, man. Watching CJ Stroud, I should have knew when you said he didn't have that it factor. I should have knew it was the nice Ohio State Sam Cerrone fan version of saying he sucks. Man, CJ Stroud is just not it. He's like a unintelligent version of Dwayne Haskins, if that makes any sense. Like, he's just not very good. Trevion Henderson looked fantastic in this game yet again. I texted you after the first play of the game. He almost broke it. He got tripped up. He looked really good. Ohio State's defense, man, it was like I was watching Tulsa, a vastly inferior program, call the right place schematically. I think they were right there with Ohio State, and some of their players were good. I think the only difference between Tulsa and Ohio State is just pure athleticism and pure talent. I think if Tulsa went in with the same game plan, maybe even the same quarterback, but with a Clemson roster who's not playing good this season, we can get into them in a little bit. Even some teams like Florida State, Florida roster, I know Florida State's been really bad too. I feel like Ohio State would have lost this game.
Yeah, talking about CJ Stroud, how you said he doesn't have the it factor. Like you go back to JT Barrett, who obviously is not the most athletic, doesn't have the best arm, but he was a leader, and that's why we were able to win so games because he was such a good leader. Stroud is like he has so many more and he has better intangibles than Barrett will ever have, but he's just not as good because he's just not a leader. He doesn't have that that swag, that motivation behind him. He's just like, I just feel like he's kind of just thrown into the pocket. He's like, all right, I guess I'm the starting quarterback for one of the best teams in the country. But going to Trevion Henderson also, like we were in this game because of him. He is just like 5 steps faster than anybody else on the field. Like I think next year he's going to be probably the best running back in the nation.
Yeah, man, Ohio State could use a really good running back prospect coming into the NFL, with Trey Sermon being freaking awful. He just got a concussion, with J.K. Dobbins tearing his ACL after an underwhelming first season, with Ezekiel Elliott, a.k.a. the James Harden of the NFL, I like to call him, Mr. Jabba the Hutt out there. Ohio State could definitely use some good rep at the running back position, in my opinion. So Trevion Henderson, I hope that's you, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's keeping us in this game. We'll see what happens on Saturday. It's Akron. I've been doing some research about Akron. They seem to have a little bit of a high-end I-10 offense. So let's see how our defense goes up against that, because our defense is just Swiss cheese. I mean, like they made one, like they've been losing the turnover battle. Like they made one pick six in this game. That's kind of changed the tide of the game, which started trending in our direction. But against Oregon, we had 0 turnovers. Against Minnesota, we were losing and getting destroyed until Haskell Garrett I think it was Zach Harrison had a strip sack for a touchdown. So, like once we get those defensive touchdowns, like that's when we can start getting the ball rolling and separate from some of these inferior teams that we've been playing.
So early game preview here. maybe we won't get too in depth into it here, but I saw over the weekend the betting odds on the Michigan Ohio State game. Again, I know it's pretty far away, have changed. I believe the Michigan Wolverines, even though being only ranked 19th in the country, are actually favored by, I want to say, like 3 points. How do you feel about that? If you can give a little bit of a Michigan Ohio State preview, that would be great. I tuned into some of that Michigan Northern Illinois game. I'll be honest, the part I saw, I know it was 63-10. I wasn't too impressed with anything Michigan was doing. I think it was just a great program up against a not so great program type deal. No real takeaways, in my opinion, from that game. I know they were crazy on the ground that game, but any takeaways from that game and any previews for that Michigan Ohio State game?
Yeah, the problem with, betting odds, I feel like they don't really factor in, like motivation, like hatred, intensity. Like when it's Michigan week, like it gets geared up, like the intensity gets geared up. Like we practice, like the practice squad wears Michigan uniforms, like and the anger gets up. Like we X out all the M's on campus, like it's insane. But
Poor guys.
The issue is, like you said, their running backs. They have a very good running back by committee on Michigan with Michigan, and our problem is our run defense is pretty abysmal. CJ Stroud of Oregon ran wild for like 160 yards. So if we don't fix this run defense by the Michigan game, it's gonna be a close game. I don't think like we're gonna blow them out like we have in the past couple of years. I think it's gonna be a closer game. More like that, that 2016 game that went to overtime. I can see something similar to that.
Yeah, getting into the Nebraska-Oklahoma game really quickly. The final score of this game was 23-16. Come college football season, I always try to tune into the programs that have some of the quarterbacks who are projected to go top 5, top 10, top 15. So this is why I initially tuned into the Oklahoma game. And man, with Spencer Rattler, just the play-to-play consistency isn't there. One play, he'll make a good, quick read. He'll throw an accurate ball, 7 to 10 yards down the field. Then the next play, he'll just make not a stupid turnover-worthy decision, but he'll just be really slow with his reads. Then he'll throw an inaccurate ball. Just from Spencer Rattler, I haven't been really impressed, and he does have a bit of the Justin Fields, I'm really mobile, but I'm a statue in the pocket factor to him, which kind of makes me nervous with these smaller guys because I think it's important to have really good pocket mobility if you are not this towering quarterback. So with Spencer Rattler, I haven't been too impressed so far, as you alluded to earlier.
Yeah, I mean, every game I've watched, he's had multiple interception games. Like, there's no game that he's very efficient. He's always creating some sort of turnover. So, that's how I separate. You would compare him to Justin Fields, but I would separate him from Justin Fields because, Justin Fields never really had any turnovers in any games. Except last year, he had a couple multiple interception games, but I think it was just 2. Like his whole college career, like Spencer Rattler's consistently having multiple turnover games, which, he has all this upside, but if he gets drafted in the NFL, I figure he's a big project, which is weird to say when people say he's the consensus number 1 quarterback.
No, absolutely. That's exactly the point. You're not picking a guy top 5 to be a project. You're seeing this year. I think this year is the first time in a decade, 2 decades, where every single first-round pick appeared in the game that they played. I know this wasn't true of week 2. I want to say Trey Lance didn't end up getting in. But still, these quarterbacks are expected to go earlier and earlier. And absolutely, to your point, from everything I've seen so far, I know the season's young still, but Justin Fields coming out of Ohio State is certainly a better prospect than Spencer Rattler, which is very disappointing because Justin Fields was the 3rd quarterback taken off the board. And if the 3rd quarterback taken off the board last year is better than the top prospect this year, again, that looks to not be the best quarterback draft class.
Additionally, that Oklahoma game had probably one of the craziest catches I've ever seen in my life with that interception. He just palmed it out of the air. That was an insane play. I saw Trey Young was on the sideline, and he went bananas when he saw that.
Yeah, that was an insane catch. One of the toughest catches I've ever seen, to be honest, especially from a DB in college. You don't see that out of college DBs.
So moving on to our next topic, we got our weekly quarterback. So we kind of talked about it earlier. We'll preview some quarterbacks and then we'll get into our awards for this week. So Carson Wentz, just brittle bones, as a Colts fan, like he can make the reads, right? He was playing pretty good the whole game. I'd give him that, but he just always, runs out of the pocket and makes play hero ball. And that's what screws him. That's at the end of the day. He just runs out of the pocket, tries to extend the play, and he just gets leveled. And like when you're not the toughest guy on the field, like you're gonna get hurt. And like after the game, they said, "Oh, his injury is pretty bad." Like when your coach says your injury is pretty bad, like it's got to be a pretty extensive injury that he's gonna miss a lot of time.
Yeah, dude. I think the kind of innate instinct to be a hero, play hero ball, extend the play, not have situational awareness, not take what the defense is giving you, and not throwing the ball out of bounds and kind of running, trying to extend the play. That's something I think play to play it can be coached out of you, but from a game-to-game basis, it's always going to show up. There's going to be a certain point, even if it's not in a week, there's going to be a certain point in the season. I think we've already seen this with Carson Wentz. We've already seen this with Jameis Winston, transitioning to Jameis Winston here a little bit after an insane week one, playing on short fields, playing like Drew Brees. Week two, he shows to be the same Jameis Winston. I think there's certain traits you need to know as a coach. Stop being arrogant. I can't coach this out of a guy. And with Carson Wentz, it's not nearly as bad as Jameis Winston's bad habits, but it's like, man, the best ability is availability, and he's just never available for his team. The Colts need an extensive quarterback game plan going into the offseason because Carson Wentz, even though I really like him, man, I think the Colts could be good with Carson Wentz. He's just not healthy, and that's the sad reality of it.
Yeah, and then we have our goddamn backup, Jacob Eason goes out there, his second throw just throws an interception.
Horrible, man.
Like in the preseason, they're like, this is the best ranked quarterback in the preseason, and then he just does that. So next week it's gonna be a tough game. So I'm not really too skeptical for a win against the Titans. A little preview to my pick 'em.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna go Titans in that game. We'll talk about why when we get to our pick 'em. But who is your gent of the week, Sam?
So, in a very interesting turn of events, I had 3 gents of the week, varying from different levels of football. So I have a high school gent of the week,
I like it.
college gent of the week, and a NFL gent of the week. So I'll start with my high school. I'll start from the base. Archie Manning, gent of the week. So this guy, Archie Manning, getting so much, he's the most sought after recruit I can remember, even though he's not even I don't think he's the highest ranked recruit of all time. I think he is a 5-star, but there's a lot of different players that have been higher. But he goes to Georgia, and the fans are just, I think there's a blimp that flies over the stadium with his name on it. The student section, right? We want Arch on their bodies in paint. It's just full pandemonium in Georgia for this game, and everybody wants Arch. And then there's also Lane Kiffin on his Instagram, the coach for Ole Miss. He follows one account on Instagram, and it is Arch Manning's Instagram account. So these programs really want Arch. So I'm excited to see how what happens with his future. I know Ole Miss, Georgia, Clemson, and maybe LSU are his top teams that he's is probably going to go with. So I'm curious to see how Arch goes with this.
Freaking hyped about Archie Manning, man. So hyped about Arch. So I was watching the Pat McAfee show this morning. I think it was clips that happened yesterday. And Eli Manning and the Manning family in general are people who are professionals. They were born into a professional family. They grew up being professionals. They're not the type of people to make reckless comments. I think they know the weight and magnitude of their comments. And Eli Manning on the Pat McAfee show confidently said Arch Manning is going to be the best Manning who has ever played football. So, I mean, if the hype train wasn't big enough, Eli just made it so much bigger. I need to tune into more of his high school games. And for college, man, I'm really excited. And I could see that Heisman, whoever is in charge of writing the busts on the Heisman, I know they already got one saying Arch Manning stored in the back. All they need is to get the college name on there.
I mean, it's insane. He said on Pat McAfee show, he said that Arch was this in awe of the way that the Georgia crowd was reacting to him. Like he said he didn't care about the NIL stuff. He was just into, the fan and how they reacted to him. So getting into my next gent of the week, a college quarterback out of Ole Miss, Matt Corral. He's putting up video game numbers. 7 total touchdowns against Tulane. He had 3 throwing touchdowns, 4 rushing touchdowns. I've been saying this at the beginning of the year before college started that he's my dark horse for Heisman, and he right now has the best odds with plus 210, which is pretty insane for, this far out. So I would put money on that. That's a lock for me. Like he's making Ole Miss look like a legit, team coming out of the SEC, and they're ranked 13 right now. So I'm excited for watching them throughout the year.
Yeah. We're talking about Spencer Rattler before. I was seeing some way too early mock drafts having Matt Corral as the top pick in the NFL draft. I want to say off the top of my head, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe he's a junior. I would love to see Corral declare for the NFL draft at the end of the season. I think right now he looks better than Spencer Rattler. His frame is a bit of a concern. I think he's a really skinny guy at 6'2". But, man, Matt Corral, very deserving of the Gent of the week. He's looked great thus far, and his stock has certainly risen in NFL circles.
He's putting up these video game numbers, and it's not like he's irresponsible about it. He's very efficient. He's not making any turnovers or anything. So it's like he's scoring 10 touchdowns without having a fumble or without having an interception. So he's playing really well. I'm excited to watch him next. So my next Gent of the week, going to the NFL, I have not my Gent last week, which, he did play really well, but I have Lamar Jackson, my Gent of the week. Like this Ravens team is just getting destroyed with injury. Like his whole backfield has just been torn apart, but it's not stopping Lamar. He goes out there, throws for 239 yards, 1 touchdown, rushes for 107 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Like Lamar I think he just has more heart than anyone else in the NFL. Like there's nothing that can stop this man. Like he'll go there. He threw 2 interceptions in this game. He had 2 fumbles last week, but it doesn't stop him from trying as hard as he can. There's so many quarterbacks that commit a turnover and they kind of just fold, and Lamar just doesn't do that.
Yeah, so I had a thought. I'm glad you have him as the Gent of the week. Kind of forgot to talk about him before. Glad I have an opportunity to talk about him now. During the game, I had a thought about Lamar, and that is I believe Lamar is the best get me a layup, get me 2 points at the shot clock guy in NFL history. Here's what I mean by that. On 3rd and 2, 4th and 2, anywhere on the field, whether you're backed up to your 1-yard line or you're on their 1-yard line, there's no player in NFL history I rather say, hey, man, 4th and 2, you got to get a first down. You got to get us a touchdown on the goal line. Ball's in your hands. Do whatever you want with it. Make any play call. I think Lamar Jackson is the best at that in NFL history. We've seen it time and time in his career, that 4th and 2, John Harbaugh, should I go for it, Lamar? Lamar confidently saying yes, and them just kind of having that goal line offense, just 12-man personnel bowling forward with Lamar Jackson with the ball in his hands. And in a week where Derrick Henry had an incredible game, I'm still confident in saying Lamar is kind of the best bucket getter in NFL history.
I mean, he's a playmaker, plain and simple. That's a perfect way to describe him. He's a bucket getter, like Steph Curry or something. Like he's insane. He's so fun to watch. Obviously, he's not the most polished passer, but like he's gonna make a play when it counts the most.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. At the end of the day, would you rather have a guy drop back, 40 times a game, have a really high completion percentage without the threat of running, still be an incredible passer come playoff time? Yeah, maybe. That's what time has proven. Time will tell with Lamar and his new kind of style of playing. And I wouldn't even say it's a new style of playing. I would say it's unique to him. I don't think we're ever going to see a Lamar Jackson type player again in NFL history. And if we do, it's very far in the future. But again, Lamar, man, he continues to win these games, and he kind of gets another monkey off his back in terms of we haven't been able to beat the best team in the NFL. We haven't been able to beat the Chiefs. They finally do it here. But getting into my sweep of, or not my sweep of the week, my gent of the week, I'm going to give it to Derrek Carr, man. Derrek Carr played amazing in the Steelers game again. Derrek Carr leads the league in passing yards. In this game, he had 382 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 126 quarterback rating. With Derrek Carr, I said last week he played incredible despite the lack of weapons around him creating separation. In this game, the difference between his 60% completion percentage in week 1 and week 2 having that 75% completion percentage was his weapons opening up more and his weapons getting more open. Henry Ruggs was looking much more than a deep threat in this game, was running short to intermediate routes, kind of working in short spaces and bursting upfield. That's exactly what we want to see out of Henry Ruggs. So this Raiders football team, I've doubted at the beginning of the season. I picked them to win against the Steelers in the upset last week. They proved me right. I'm very happy with Derrek Carr. It seems as though John Gruden and Derrek Carr's relationship have turned a new corner as well, so that's very good to see.
I mean, back-to-back weeks, they played pretty, solidified defenses when you're looking at the NFL, and he's played great against both of them. He's had great games. I mean, I'm skeptical to say that the Raiders are, a playoff team because I feel like last year they came out pretty good, and then they just kind of stamp it off at the end of the year. But this team looks really good. I think if they can, put together a string of good wins before kind of collapsing, I can say this team will be a playoff game. I would say give it a couple weeks, but this team is looking good. Yeah. And with the slow emergence of Henry Ruggs this year, like they have 2 weapons that Henry Ruggs, deep threat, intermediate threat, and then you have a Waller who's a short threat and intermediate threat too. Like it's gonna be hard for teams to game plan with Darren Waller and Ruggs, in the future when they're starting to get their rhythm.
Man, this Raiders team could really use a really good route runner, a guy with really good hands. Maybe they should trade for Antonio Brown. Maybe that'll work out for the team. Nah, I'm just kidding. But we saw how that happened, or we saw how that played out before a couple seasons ago. But getting into my sweep of the week, Sam, man, how can I not pick Capono, the God-sent child, the Mormon who has blessed us with his football ability, Zach Wilson. I was kind of joking during the game. Zach Wilson, and the reason why he's not doing good is because no one wants to hear him pray about the Mormon Bible during halftime, so he has to do it alone. Meanwhile, BYU's looking better than they ever did under Zach Wilson. They're looking incredible. Not saying that's the fault of Zach Wilson, but last year he had 4 interceptions, I want to say, the entire season, 4 or 3. And this week he had 4 interceptions. The issue with Zach Wilson in this game, it wasn't a 4 interception concerning classic rookie game. It was first interception, not really your fault. Second interception, your fault. The third and fourth interception, Sam, were so bad. He wasn't even throwing to anyone on the Jets. He was just kind of panicking and seeing ghosts. Sorry to use that term, Jets fans. I know that gives you PTSD, but he legitimately was seeing ghosts with his third and fourth interception. And that's when your confidence in your career starts to wane and have question, which is not good.
Yeah, so going off of that, my sweep of the week is also Zach Wilson. So we picked the same guy this week, but like you see, Sam Darnold, I think Jets fans are wishing they had Sam Darnold right about now. He's not the best quarterback. He makes some stupid plays, but Matt Rule in Carolina is kind of coaching those mistakes out of them, and they're looking like a solid team that they can finish second in the NFC South. But Zach Wilson is he's looking like a kid. He looks like a kid out there. 4 interceptions, like you said, two of them were like just to no one. And he's getting hit a lot. He looks uncomfortable. He looks flustered. I'm not confident in him at all. I know it's just 2 weeks, and I feel like maybe he gets a little more NFL experience under his belt. He can start playing better and better, but he looks like a lost cause. It's only week 2, which is a sad thing to say.
I don't know, man. This looks bad. I don't want to pull the redshirt him already card, but This Jets team, man, they suck. And on paper, they shouldn't be this bad. Like, their playmakers aren't too good. But you look at the Patriots playmakers, even again, we're talking about the Raiders. I know they have better playmakers than the Jets. I'm not even trying to compare the two, really. But quarterbacks and teams have been able to succeed. The Colts are another example. Succeed without elite playmakers. Denzel Mims is pretty good, man. Elijah Moore is pretty solid. I think Corey Davis is pretty solid. They shouldn't be this. Start to look at the offensive coaching staff and just the coaching staff in general. Like, why do you put your quarterback in the situation? You know you're going to New England. You know the history your team has had in New England, especially with rookie quarterbacks. Mark Sanchez had a horrible game against New England. I know Peyton Manning notoriously had a horrible second game against New England. That was a little fun fact I heard over the weekend. I want to say he threw 3 or 4 interceptions against New England as well. Sorry to bring that up in 98. That wasn't against Bill Belichick, though, so it's okay. But, it's just the style in which they went out. They went out just with a horrible game plan, not protecting them whatsoever. Like, let him get a feel for things. Watch Mac Jones plays. He's always hitting the first read. He's going through his progressions quickly, short to intermediate routes. Like, why are you running Corey Davis across the middle of the field every single play when you're playing Devin McCourty in a defense that tricks young quarterbacks? I just don't get it from a schematic standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the fault of Robert Saleh and the Jets coaching staff. But Bill Belichick just had a field day in this game. He just had an absolute blast watching this young quarterback crumble under pressure. There's that meme of him smiling on the sideline when he was making some of that substitution plays that against the Titans, I think it was. Bill Belichick loved to see this happen. Just watch a young quarterback's career slowly burn in front of his eyes.
Yeah, he's an absolute bastard, man, like that. He takes no remorse. He'll take your soul, and he kind of took Zach Wilson's soul in this game for sure.
Yeah, this week the rookie quarterbacks did not look that great, so we can give Justin Fields an honorary sweep of the week. Even Joe Burrow, who has 1 season under his belt, did not look good at all either. So the young quarterbacks did not come to play this week.
No, they did not.
So getting into our next topic, we have Week 3 NFL Pick'em. So Thursday night, we got the Panthers versus the Texans. Who do you have in this game?
Yeah, man, the Panthers have kind of proved me wrong a little bit thus far in this season. I know stat Panthers fans love to throw out there of last season. They played in really close games. I don't think they lost a game within 10 points all year last year. And they're proving how with small adjustments, they turn those 4 or 5 point losses into 10, 15 point wins. Again, playing a Houston Texans team with Davis Mills, aka Josh Rosen. Man, I don't think Davis Mills is quite ready for NFL action yet. And I think the Carolina Panthers are going to win this game pretty convincingly. A pretty shitty Thursday night game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Panthers as well. I feel like historically, it's always a shot game in the Thursday night slot. I feel like they just throw in the worst game, and I don't know. People are going to watch because it's NFL football. I mean, I'm a fan of getting rid of Thursday night football, but Panthers are going to win this game. They could sneak into the playoffs. I think they're going to be fighting for a playoff spot come Week 18. Going to the next game, we have Chargers versus the Chiefs. I'm going to pick the Chiefs in this game. I think they bounce back after a tough loss against the Ravens. Ending in a Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumble that destroyed my parlay that I had all faith in. But I'm going to go with the Chiefs.
Yeah, that was a bad betting beat if I've ever seen one. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, man, is just not very good. He's one of those guys where the evaluators missed on him. He's very quick. He's very shifty. But it's like Clyde Edwards-Helaire makes 5 guys miss. You look up and he gained 4 yards and you're like, what the hell? Like most guys who make 5 guys miss get a 30-yard gain or a 40-yard gain. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's a very high effort, low result guy, if that makes any sense. But enough with the Clyde Edwards-Helaire slander. I think the Chiefs are going to win this game. I don't think they've lost back-to-back games in the Mahomes era yet. Not to say I have confidence in Andy Reid coming out with a good game plan. I think they're going to come out slow again, but the Chargers have come out slow as well. not really being able to break that curse thus far in the season. So I do have the Chiefs winning again.
Next game, we have the Cardinals versus the Jaguars. Who do you have here?
Oh, man, I hope the Cardinals. I have the Cardinals winning this game, man. It's the tale of like the horrible, way over their mind college head coaches here with Cliff Kingsbury and Urban Meyer. What a schematic just dream this game is going to be. It's going to be a painful game. I think Trevor Lawrence has his best game in the pros yet. Last week, he was horrible. I think he completed under 50% of his passes. I think he'll have some success against this young Cardinals secondary, which really was exposed last week. But the Cardinals and their high-octane offense, I anticipate at least 30 points from this Cardinals defense or offense in this game.
Yeah, I'm picking Cardinals as well. I'm looking to, that Kyler Rondell Moore connection to start gaining some more steam. It was very fun to watch last week. I'm a little concerned with the Cardinals, given that, Kirk Cousins was like prime Aaron Rodgers last week. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals, but they're going to put up a lot of points. But, that defense needs to play a little better than they did last week. Moving on to the next game, we have the Browns versus the Bears. Justin Fields is first game as a starting quarterback, probably. I'm still going to go with the Browns. I think Fields is going to have maybe a little bit of a sloppy game in Cleveland. The Browns are looking good. Their running game's looking solid, so I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns here.
Yeah, man. There's something about that Browns stadium that just screams sloppy play. I'm going to have to agree with you on this one. I think the Browns are going to win. I think Justin Fields, though this Browns defense hasn't looked good to start the season, I think they pick it up back on track here, have confidence against a rookie quarterback, and I think the Browns defense is going to win them this game.
Next game, we have the Washington football team versus the Buffalo Bills. Who do you got here?
Yeah, man, I'll be honest. I watched that Thursday night game. I was really unimpressed with Taylor Heineke. I know people were really impressed, and that is in the minority of thinking. But Taylor Heineke, man, so slow, like really slow with his reads. His arm just does not have pop on it. He kind of pushes the ball instead of throwing it. I think his hands are too big to grip the football, to be completely honest, when I see his weird, inconsistent throwing motion and release. His pocket presence is really bad. When he has outside pressure, he steps out of the pocket instead of stepping into the pocket. I think this Bills defense is going to start getting some momentum. They didn't play good last season. They've played good the first 2 games of the season. I think the Bills offensively starting to get it back on track as well. I think the Bills are going to convincingly win this game.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bills as well. They went out last week and they just pounded the Dolphins. Was it 35-0? Diggs didn't even get targeted that much, so I'm confident that they're going to win this game. Josh Allen, he's going to get back on track. So Buffalo Bills here. Next game, we have the Colts versus the Titans. Hurts me to say, but I'm going to go with the Titans. They looked good last week against the Seahawks. They won that game, even though they had 2 massive plays that did not go in their favor with the Julio Jones touchdown and the apparent safety at the end of the game. That should have been a safety, but somehow got marked on the 1-yard line, which I'm not really sure how that happened, but I'm going to go with the Titans here.
Yeah, one of my favorite non-Cardinals to watch last season was A.J. Brown. So I was excited when he played the Cardinals week 1. Had a bad game. Week 2 had a pretty bad game as well. He's looked pretty bad uncharacteristically the first 2 games of the season. I think he's motivated. He's playing a divisional rival, the best team in their division outside of themselves. So I think the Titans are going to come into this game motivated, and I do think they're going to beat the Colts, sadly, Sam.
Hate to see it starting off 3-0. That's not a good start for us. Moving on to the next game, we got the Saints versus the Patriots. Who do you got here?
So this is a game I will be attending. I will be in the stands for the Saints-Patriots game. Very excited. My first game back at Gillette since, God, I can't even remember I think the last time I was at Gillette is when I was watching Peyton Manning, the sheriff, play Tom Brady, the luckiest man in NFL history. I've been bouncing back and forth of this game. I think the Saints are going to squeak by this game. I think it's going to be really ugly, but I think late game Jameis Winston heroics will win this game. But this is a 50-50 toss-up, in my opinion.
I'm going to go on the contrary view. I'm going to take the Patriots. I think that Belichick's going to have yet another field day this game with just confusing Jameis Winston out there. And I think he might have a multiple interception game and give the Patriots the win. Moving on to our next game, we have the Falcons versus the Giants. I'm going to go with the Giants get their first win of the year. I hope Saquon gets on track. I picked him in fantasy. He's been looking not that great, but he's getting slowly better and better than he has the past couple of weeks. So I'm going to go with the Giants here.
Yeah, man, I have him in our other league that you don't have him in. He's been struggling. I really anticipate him to bounce back in this game. Look a little bit more healthy. Look a little less hesitant to get hit in this football game as he did last Thursday night. Man, this is another 50-50 toss-up game. Danny Dimes looked really good in Washington. Playing another bad defense, I think he'll have another good game here.
Moving on to our next game, we have the Cincinnati Bungles versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who do you got here?
Yeah, man, this is a pick that I made yesterday. I picked the Steelers. Then today, when I was looking at it, I was like, I'm picking the Bengals. And here's my rationale behind my switch and picking the Bengals. I heard out of Steelers camp that Ben Roethlisberger is very limited. He's injured. So Mike Tomlin said, we're going to have Ben Roethlisberger on a limited game plan. And picturing Ben Roethlisberger right now and who he's been, he's extremely limited. They've had an extremely limited game plan with a healthy Ben Roethlisberger. With an injured Ben Roethlisberger, all I'll say is, Bengals, you suck if you can't beat an injured, worn down 40-year-old man, Ben Roethlisberger. So I got the Bengals in this one.
I feel like Ben Roethlisberger has lived his whole career on the injured list at some point. That dude is a walking hospital.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with the Steelers here. I think their defense is going to be able to make some turnovers, and that's how they're going to win this game is on the defense side of the ball. Moving on to our next game, we have the Ravens versus the Lions. I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens here. I think Lamar has another big game, possibly another sweet Gent of the week appearance for next week. And the Lions, I mean, they're just like the most meh team out there. Like, they have nothing, spectacular about them to watch. So I'm going to go with the Ravens here.
Yeah, dude, watching the Lions is like, the offensive line isn't that bad. They're pretty average. Their quarterback play, it's pretty average. Their running backs, they're pretty average. They're a very meh, average, boring team. I like how you describe them there. I think it's going to be a bit of a closer game than people anticipate because the Lions, they've had a good ability of sustaining drives. And when you combine that with the Ravens' ability to sustain, this is going to be a slower, grinded out game, but I do think the Ravens will win it.
Moving on to our next game, we have the Jets versus the Broncos. Who do you have here?
Man, can I think of a team in NFL history who's been blessed more by their first 3 games than the Denver Broncos this season? I know the Denver Broncos and their fans are crazy over this first start, but it's like, come on, you've played 2 of the worst teams in the NFL. Now you're going to play potentially the worst team in the NFL. I think the Broncos are going to win this game, but I think a snap back to reality is due for them soon, but not this week.
I'm going to go with the Broncos as well. I think they have a really good team. I think Teddy Bridgewater is a really good, solid, average quarterback. I just think, I have faith in them to make a playoff push at the end of the year. I just think they need to win one game against a big opponent where people are starting to be like, all right, maybe this team's good. Because I feel like a lot of people are like yourself, maybe are just skeptical about, them because they have played these pretty abysmal teams these past couple weeks.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'll add one more thing to that game. I love Vic Fangio. I like this coaching staff a lot. But again, they do need that one solidified win to kind of, in my mind at least, solidify them as a team who's deserving of this 3-0 record. We anticipate them going into week 4.
Moving on to our next game, we have the Dolphins versus the Raiders. Who do you have here?
Yeah, the Raiders winning in this game. Jacoby Brissett, it's weird. He started out with the Colts playing really, really good football. He gets injured. He comes back, and it's like he's not even a top 40 quarterback in the NFL. I think we're going to see more of a combination between the two, not the Pat McAfee's front runner for the MVP, 1 or 2 seasons ago. I don't think we'll see that guy, but I also don't think we'll see not even a top 50 quarterback in the NFL. But again, I don't think it's going to be enough. I think the Raiders, it's very Raiders-esque to lose a game like this. I think they're more legit this year. I think the Raiders win this game.
Yeah, I really don't know what Pat McAfee was thinking when he picked
So stupid.
Brissett to win MVP, but I will also go with the Raiders. This could potentially be a trap game, like you said, for them, but I don't think they're going to win. I think they have enough, momentum going into this week. Moving on to our next game, we have Buccaneers versus the Rams, probably the game of the week. Who do you got here?
Man, I'll be honest. This pains me as an Arizona Cardinals fan to say. I think the Rams are going to win this football game. I think the Rams were a bit of a nightmare matchup for this Buccaneers team that they got lucky not running up against in the playoffs last year. And this year, Buccaneers have looked really shitty, man. I watched that Buccaneers-Falcons game alongside another game. I was trying to keep up with it as much as possible. Matt Ryan looked really bad, yet they were in the game for the majority of the game. He ended up throwing 2 pick sixes, which really solidified the game for the Buccaneers. But this Buccaneers defense, I know they can still create turnovers, but just the consistency hasn't been there from the defense. And the offense has been really good, but man, playing a great defense like this Rams defense with playmakers, I don't think they'll be able to hide some of the blemishes they've had. So I think the Rams are going to win this football game. It'll be a really good game, though.
I'm going to go with the Rams as well. I think it's going to be a very fun game. Their offense just looks unreal with Matthew Stafford, at the helm. They're just fun. Their defense is great. So I'm going to go with the Rams here. Potentially an NFC rematch, NFC Championship rematch later in the year, because I can see both these teams playing deep into January. Yep. Moving on to our next game, we have the Seahawks versus the Vikings. I had the Seahawks winning here. The Vikings did look very good last week against your Cardinals. But the Seahawks, they just lost a heartbreaker last week. Russ Wilson's cooking. I can't wait to see the pictures of, the post of let Russ cook for the next couple of weeks until he starts petering off in late October. But I think the Seahawks get the win here.
Dude, there's something about the Seahawks team where the offense either plays like one of the worst offenses in the league or they play like one of the best. And then the defense either plays like one of the worst defenses in the league or one of the best. It's never they're playing, pretty average on the defensive side, which would help them. I think it would be better for the Seattle team to be more consistent and more average. Whereas in this Titans game, they go from the first half, elite defense, Derrick Henry doing nothing, to second half, Derrick Henry's absolutely feasting, gets 45 points in fantasy because the Seahawks defense goes from looking elite to looking absolute dog shit in the second half. I think this is going to be a really close game. Both teams motivated after a heartbreaking loss. I do think the Seahawks are going to sneak by with the win, though.
Moving on to the Sunday night game, we have the Packers versus the 49ers, an NFC Championship game from a couple years ago. Who do you have here?
Yeah, man. Watching the 49ers play, I think they're a top 10 football team in the NFL. I think they're a really good team. I feel really confident in saying they're not a Super Bowl contender, though. I think they just lack that top-end talent, not only offensively, but defensively. Their secondary is looking really shaky. I don't think they really have any real playmakers on that side of the ball. And then again, offensively, I know Deebo Samuel is really good. They need to get Brandon Ayuk going a little bit more. The running back room has been really questionable. And with Jimmy Garoppolo with a non-transcendent quarterback at the helm, I think they do lose to more talented football teams like the Packers. I think this game will be close. I think come playoff time, the Packers would decisively win this game. But in the regular season, I think the Packers will narrowly escape with the victory.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Packers as well. Last week, they exploded. Rodgers played great. Aaron Jones just, single-handedly defeated me in fantasy a couple of days ago, which was just heartbreaking. So Packers come out. I think they're going to come out hot again and win this game. And in our last game, we have the Eagles versus the Cowboys, an NFC East rivalry. I'm going to go with the Cowboys again. The Eagles, they came out hot week 1, and then week 2, they just looked flat. They scored 11 points. Couldn't really get anything going until the end of the game. So the Cowboys are exciting. They grinded the game out against the Chargers, so giving the Cowboys here.
Yeah, I think this is kind of going to kind of be the tale for Jalen Hurts, at least this season, maybe not for his entire career, where one game he looks like Russell Wilson, and the next game he looks really bad. He kind of looks like sophomore year Jalen Hurts. That was kind of the tale of last week. I think the Cowboys win this game. They have a really high-octane offense, which didn't really show up last week against a good Chargers team, but I think it shows back up against this Eagles defense. Not only that, but this Cowboys defense has been getting a little bit better. Micah Parsons looks like an absolute stud. I think he would have gotten picked top 10 if it wasn't for some of those character issues and him opting out of the season. Plus, Trevon Diggs looks really good and is starting to play with more confidence.
Yeah, I'm excited for another week of football, and we'll see how our picks fare this week. I think we missed a couple games last week, but we're trying to get back on track here. But thank you everybody for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will see you in the next one.